Welcome back, everybody, to Round 5 commentary with your boy Sparky and my boy Victor. Say hello, Victor.
I'm actually not going to say hello, Victor. Just kidding, I am anyway. But what's going on, guys? We are live at our round 5 today from Nova Games in Brick, New Jersey. As many of you know, we have been a longtime residents of the Keep. Unfortunately, on December 1st, the Keep closed. Sad day for everyone involved. Great store, great atmosphere, but sometimes the world is the world. So we found a great home in Nova Games, and we are happy to get another 5-round FNM going off strong.
Yes, love to hear it. Everyone at home, please go out and support your local game stores, wherever they may be. RIP to Keep. Right here, we got Ian, hometown hero, worker at Nova Games, running Sultai Living End against your boy me on Blue Black FrogTide. Hopefully, some of the people at home are rooting for me in this one. Hopefully, they're not. Also, that's a possibility. Victor, where do you stand on this matchup?
Can you both lose? Is that an option?
Us both losing is not an option, but we are both 4-0 here. Ian played very strongly. I know he beat you in the previous round to this match. I actually enjoyed your Bant deck, which I think will be posted later this week. But yeah, I was bringing back a little bit of the FrogTide, no Oculus, leading off on a Thoughtseize here.
To get back onto your question, I will answer it. I do think that this is a very interesting matchup, especially with this new iteration of Living End. While ironically, there's no grief, which you would think as the control player in this particular matchup, even though I do consider FrogTide to be certainly tempo, but you obviously have,
Of course,
more stack interaction comparatively speaking. This Living End list, while it doesn't have a lot of discard, it has a lot of utility and it has a lot of, I guess, I want to say robustness to it. It can attack in different angles, and Halo Forger is certainly an interesting include, and really, really surprised by how well the deck can fight through a lot of counter magic.
Yeah, I played against this deck in the RCQ that I won, and we brought this list back home to the team, and Ian kind of fell in love with it. For those at home who don't know, Ian also played this in the OCHO. It's in the OCHO standings lists. He's running 4 Street Wraith and 4 Halo Forger, and he also has the Overlord of the Bale Merc, which allows him to mill some of his cards and get some cards back. And in doing so, you can put some Living Ends there and then cast it for 0 with the Halo Forger. So there's a little bit of a wombo combo on both sides of the fence here with those cards and how they synergize with each other. But like it's your typical Living End, put big threats into the graveyard, get big threats out relatively cheaply. On my side, without the Oculuses and the Honors, I'm basically just trying to find a frog, get it into play quickly, and like tempo out the game with card advantage from the frog, and being able to, like you said, have stack interaction. Looking at my hand, I have none of those pieces. I have a counterspell, and I mean my list, right, as you see right now, gets to play Preordain, which kind of smooths things out a little bit. This matchup, I definitely feel like in game 1 is very hard for me. I have to like draw the counter spells and counter a lot of his Living Ends, and then try and put myself progressively on the front foot. But I did not have a very quick start at all. I also mulled to 6 if everybody was paying attention. So I'm sitting here with like Land Shoot the Sheriff, Orcish Bowmaster, and Archmage's Charm in my hands. And Ian's got a bunch of cyclers, a way to get some stuff back, and like I think a Flare of Denial.
Yeah, it certainly looked like that. But one of the things I want to point out actually is one of the nombos for your Orcish Bowmaster. Traditionally, in the list of old, there weren't that many land cyclers that were in the deck. Now, because the deck so heavily relies on not only having the Generous Amp, but the Troll of Khazad-dûm. Now, granted, Ian only has 2. However, those cyclers are the ones that you want in the graveyard, to cycle with. And really awkward because you can't get full value, or not full value, I should say, but like decent value out of your Bowmaster because they're not drawing a card from it, which certainly can be brutal. And, with actually drawing, I believe he drew the Bale Merc, so that was the card I was going to talk about. Cool to see
card's
a standard
so
card
good.
make such a huge impact in this deck. I mean, I believe, yeah, Ian's running a full play set, and versing that card, the utility that it gives you is wild. But it looks like Ian going for the early Halo Forger, so
Yeah,
very
can
interesting
you tell
spot.
what card he wants to play from my graveyard?
Oh well, yeah, I'm gonna go with the preordain,
No,
which
I
I
think
think.
it's the Thoughtseize.
Oh,
I
I
think
forgot that you thought these. Yes, that's a good point. However, by the way, he tapped that. I don't think that's possible because he has a hedge maze, so that's why I said.
I believe Halo Forger lets you use any mana. I
Oh,
think that's
I'm
part
even
of it. Let
worse.
me double check. Yeah, when Halo Forger enters the battlefield, you may pay X. Whenever you do, you can cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value X from a graveyard without paying its mana
Oh,
cost without if that spell will be put into a graveyard exile. So you
okay.
pay
Hey,
generic, and then you get whatever
got it.
the
I
card is.
misunderstood because I thought that. Well, to be fair, my only interaction with that card, one for everyone at home, it's out of either graveyard, so be
Yep,
careful for that.
a graveyard. Yep.
Two, I thought you had to cast it, but since the only card that Ian ever cast against me was Living In with it, I just assumed it was just whatever the cost was. Here's a pretty good value chain off of that Bowmaster. With
Yeah.
two cards in
Wait
hand,
for it.
and oh boy,
One of those cards in his hand.
oh boy.
Yeah. I'm sitting there with two removal spells against the deck that just wants to put its graveyard into play. Things are not going well for your
No,
boy.
and now he's also got the flare rolled up, which also great interaction with Halo Forger because you don't usually care about the Halo Forger being the spell that you well actually it is helpful to counter the Halo Forger because it's an ETB, so you can actually stop the interaction, unlike when it's Charlotte's Agent, where Charlotte's isn't in play yet, so you usually end up with that back. But if you let the Halo Forger resolve, Ian's flares are online as well, which can be a dangerous proposition in of itself.
That was one of the reasons why I used the Archmage's Charm on my turn. I didn't want him to Thoughtseize and still have a free counterspell in play. Because he obviously he would have used the Thoughtseize, taken the Archmage's Charm, and then known everything about my hand. And here comes a hard cast Bailmerk, and I'm just like, oh, this Fatal Push does nothing.
Yeah, the card being only 5 is crazy to me. And also, for everyone at home who maybe is only playing Modern and it hasn't really looked too much into the Standard season, the Overlord does not just let you choose from creatures that you mill. It is any non-avatar creature in that graveyard. So Ian's got a lot of utility to
Yeah,
get
like
a
that
lot
Halo
of
Forger I
annoying
countered.
cards. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Really makes you feel like nothing mattered.
I think nothing does matter. Your boy has one card in hand. It's a removal spell. We're searching up a land here. I believe both of my Undercity Sewers are in play, so there's no surveilling. It's raw dog and off the top against what seems to be Flare, Halo Forger, and a couple other bangers from Ian on the other side.
Yeah, unfortunately, without the One Ring here, I don't like your odds. Even that Murktide that you draw, it just seems like it doesn't matter, which is so crazy. In these kinds of matchups, because traditionally speaking, it could be a difference maker, but the strength of what's going on with these decks is wild.
100%. I think in the aggregate, like my hand, I probably should have mulliganed again, and like I should have looked for like a more faster play to the board hand with like turn two Bowman, especially on the player, turn two Frog, in order to pressure Ian, as opposed to like this more reactive hand, which is what I kept, and that kind of eluded me, and that's why we're in the position we're in right now. Allowing Living End to just take turn after turn after turn is not kind of what you want to do in any of your matchups, regardless what deck you're playing. You kind of just want to put pressure on them to try and float their Living End, and then if you can stop it, stop it.
Here's a question I have for you. Why leave the Thoughtseize in yard instead of delving it to this Murktide so that it was a little bit bigger?
So my thought process is if he flips, yeah, I don't think that was the right choice. I probably could have made it a 7/7, right? I was just worried about making it bigger than the Belmerk. So as long as it's bigger than the Belmerk, I'm not worried because like I get a free block here. But in retrospect, what I should have done is I should have left at a 5/5 and then blocked because it's more likely he will living end after combat.
Hmm. Interesting.
But
You taking the endurance.
yeah, and I honestly don't think he's that worried. I think he's taking that as like a down the road plan. Like if we go 6, 7, 8 more turns, endurance is pretty good for him.
That's a good point.
Um, I don't think he's worried about me getting back one Murktide, one subtlety.
All right, this is going to be a living end that gets back a Charlotte Sage and 2 Street Rates, a Subtlety, a Curator Mysteries, an Overlord, a Generous Ent, and another Street Wraith. Yeah, wow. I've never seen death marked so permanently on a card.
Yeah, Street Wraith is basically like Invisible Stalker against this Murktide deck. Like if I have a swamp in play, I'm just kind of dead to it.
Oh yeah, and I completely forgot about that. The Swamp Walk. It was not relevant against me.
No,
Actually,
definitely relevant against me.
so certainly a problem here. Did you happen to bring your damnations today?
No, I did not.
No. Okay.
I think
All
there was
right.
two. I think there's another Halo Forger in his graveyard. He forgot to bring out the one right under next to the Beseiju.
Yes.
But I don't think
Yes.
that matters. Or no,
It could have mattered
is
because
he seeing it now?
he could have thought seized. No, he's looking right at it, or at least he's Oh, all right.
Yeah, maybe that's another reason why I should have taken the Thoughtseize too. Big plays from your boy.
At least he can't get back the Bale Merc to itself. About the only redeeming
Correct.
quality about everything else.
Hey, look, Fatal Push mattered. Oh wait, pushing the bigger one.
And he's just gonna
And
trade
there's
the
a
extra damage.
flare.
Yeah, might as well trade the damage. And
No One
calling
Ring
out
on that card.
that is a consider. But none of this is, to my knowledge, none of this is gonna matter. I don't.
That is a Murktide, and we're still dead. I'm doing the math on, hey, that's okay, this is lethal, this is lethal, this is still lethal. Ian's got 100 cards in his hand. I have a do not pass go, do not collect $200. It's not resolving.
And
Cool. Yay!
for what it's
So,
worth, I
go
mean,
ahead.
actually, no, it wouldn't have mattered. But you picked up the cards, but you wish that other one would have grown still, but not that it mattered.
No, I think even if I blocked his biggest creatures, I was still dead. Based off
Yeah.
how much damage I had already taken. But we get to look at the sideboards here. And looking over Ian's first, I think his is like the easiest one to make the swaps for, because as you're gonna see, I'm gonna pull out a bunch of cards. Um, Looking at his sideboard, he's got an Endurance, a Force of Negation, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Foundation Breaker, 3 Inevitable Trail, 3 Leyline of the Void, and 3 Mystical Dispute. I think it's pretty easy. He's going to bring in those 3 Leylines, 3 Disputes, and then most likely the Endurance for 7 cards. I don't think that's a hard switch for him. And he'd probably cut some number of Force of Negations. Again, uh, a lot of people had been cutting Force Negation throughout the night. Like people were playing control decks or other decks that run Force, because there's not really something I'm going to play on my turn. They need to hit. I don't have like the One Ring or anything big that's going to get cast on my turn besides maybe like a frog or something like that. Most of my spells are going to be cast on my opponent's turn because I'm playing at instant speed. So
I can agree with that. Yeah, you're not. It's not like you're gonna untap and cast the ring. You're
yeah,
not board wiping. So and the stack interaction, flare and mystical dispute are what you're gonna want on your turns. And I mean, if you
sure.
think about it, right? So we talk about mystical dispute, ley lines, and endurance. That's 7 cards there. I think honestly, if anything, Ian takes it the 3 forces, and I think the subtleties come out. I don't think your creatures are impactful enough to warrant needing to subtlety them versus just letting them either get swept away by the living end or Just let Ian's bigger creatures deal with them.
Yeah, I think that would put him into like almost a full combo mode. Like he's just going full combo balls to the wall and then like stopping me from using my graveyard. Whereas like I think Leyline the Void hurts the decks that are playing Abhorrent Oculus a lot. Like if your goal is to like unearth something and then like put the Oculus into play, like Leyline's gonna destroy you. Whereas I feel like my deck without the Oculus, like as long as I cut some number of Murktides, I have Frogs, I have Bowman, I'm bringing in some number of possible subtleties against him just to have dudes that I can either evoke to my graveyard or play a flash plan against my opponent, and I think that's kind of smart. So, yeah, I like his choice of sideboarding. I think he's taking out a couple Waker of the Waves. It looked like he cut two of the Wakers to bring in some of the cards. So it looked like two Wakers, the four Forces, and then maybe some number of subtleties. Possibly he could have cut the Kiora. I'm not exactly sure. From my side, I can tell you that I cut all of the removal spells. So all four Fatal Push and one Shoot the Sheriff, and then all three Spell Snare. He has nothing that costs 2 mana in his deck that I want to counter. So Spell Snare's an immediate out. And none of his creatures matter because of his recursion engine. So like I want to get all the removal spells out of my deck. Four automatic includes are going to be consigned to memory, so to stop the Shardless Agent from cascading and to stop the Halo Forger from triggering its ability. I also brought in two Harbinger the Seas to try and trap him under his own mana base. And then I brought in two Nile spell bombs, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was 8 there, I think, as well, with the 4 Fatal Pushes, the Shoot the Sheriff, and the Spell Snares. I'm not sure if that's all that I cut because I think I knew I wanted to take two Murktides out possibly. Or no, I think in the match I took out two Thought Seizes, so I probably added the Force and the Memory Deluge. Now that I'm looking at it,
Okay. Yeah.
so like I think I'm just trying to like mulligan to like a cheap threat, which is one of the two drops, and there's 8 in the deck, and just like lay something down and try and beat like whatever he's got going on. And we're looking at 7 here. No lands.
Mm, that'd be a great hand. That would be a great hand. Darn, and you were realistically was a potential one land keeper.
Oh yeah, there was preordained. Like that's why I kind of like this version of the deck a little bit more. You have like more keepable like 5s and 6s, especially if you're mulliganing against certain decks, with the ability to like preordain and see more cards and like adjust what's going on and consider, as opposed to Thought Scour, which is just mill the top 2 cards, draw a card. You're not giving yourself any selection. It's just some amount of advantage, or it's velocity, like just going through your deck with Thought Scour. Let's see what this one looks like.
Ooh boy.
Well, that was a fun match, guys. I hope you join us next week. Kidding. We'll see. I think I make a joke about trying to prolong the match somehow. But yeah, Ian
Yeah,
Snap
it's a
keeps
rough
his
one.
hand. So knowing that Living End doesn't have any issues and is probably going to go off without a hitch with his 7, that's going to be rough. Because now, if he kept in Forces or if he kept in Subtleties, he can leverage that against how many cards I keep in my opening hand now. Which is something to think about when you're making these mulligan decisions.
Maybe it's the sleeves. Maybe you should change your color.
Take the yellow off, yeah.
Yeah. Ian learning how to count, helping you out there.
Yep, I asked him if I could take an 8th card. He said no.
That's very unsportsmanlike. We'll probably have to talk to
I'm
a coach
gonna be
about that.
honest. Yeah, no, yeah, it is a little unsportsmanlike on my part. Four
And then on
lands.
his part, he should have been a warrior about it and let you draw in the 8th card.
Four lands.
5 anyway.
Yeah, 4 lands, counterspell, frog, and consign. I think is the best I could do. And the first 2 lands are going to be Blackcleave Cliffs.
You know, Sparky, I don't know how this is gonna go because I'm not sure if you're gonna. Okay.
Well, you're going to see how it's going to go in just a second.
Yeah, I saw the very pretty full art mystical dispute, and I feel like this is about as bad as it's going to get.
I mean, this was the best I could do with 5 cards, and Ian shut me down with a single card. Like it was like this was like the most demoralizing thing that happened to me at FNM. Just like getting completely blown out by the mystical dispute. Um, I made a joke there where he said "fail to find."
Oh, all right. Well, he failed to find.
Nah.
Unbelievable.
We have a little bit of a dispute over this, if you will.
I don't know if it's much of a dispute other than him just telling you no.
Yeah, he was just like Stone Cold, get out of here, bruh. And like, if you're looking at Ian's hand, it's stacked. I see a Cycler, I see a Sink into Stupor, I see he has Generous Ent, and I believe the only thing he's
Halo
missing is like a.
Forgers.
Oh, he has it. No, he's got a. I think that's the middle card with the white text. I think is Agent. I could be wrong though.
In the wise words of our friend of the stream and co-owner Calvin would always say, "Por qué no los dos?"
Yeah.
He could have both. I think I saw it both. So I mean, listen. Either way, you are looking up at you are at base camp of Mount Everest with no climbing pack, and someone told you to just climb up.
No, I showed up. I
And
showed up in swim trunks and flip flops, and I'm like, let's go.
by the way, he definitely has both in his hand.
Yep. Things aren't
So
good for us.
things are not good for you.
Two Sink into Stupors. I think he just drew a troll.
It would be.
And he's just
Be
throwing away
interesting.
his life total. He shock fetched. It fetched shock, then shock, then shock. Like he doesn't give a crap about what I'm doing.
Yeah, and here's even the more brutal part, and this is where it's a real wombo combo of value because you're gonna probably either counter the living end, or you could have consigned it, which in hindsight would have been better because now it enables the living end to be in the yard. So this Halo Forger is now live. Now, granted, he doesn't know that you have
The
uh,
counterspell. And the
the
same thing like
consignment memory,
yeah,
but that can be a brutal thing for players who are playing these blue black decks because you're like, oh, I'm just going to counter it, and then now it's just as good being in the graveyard.
100%.
Traditionally, before Halo Forger, before this variation, usually a counterspelled living end meant it was just a dead card in the graveyard.
100%. I'm over here just debating my life choices, thinking about how, I could have played Energy today. I could have like probably had a better matchup. Why am I not playing Belcher? All those things.
Well, in fairness, you were not playing Belcher because you were a good friend and
I
let
let
you
you the
borrow some cards.
suppression raise. Yeah,
Yeah, I still don't know what that card does other than is a blue white land. I think there's a front side to it, but to me, I should have just kept them all back facing.
it's actually an energy card, so you'd love it.
If only the deck played energy.
This is true. I drew a Cling to Dust for the turn, so I'm over here Jones. I'm like, come on, do something crazy.
So if he goes for the Halo Forger, I'm interested to see. I'm gonna think that you cling it, but I could be wrong. We're gonna find out.
So there was a question asked about this earlier in the event. Halo Forger is resolving all as one ability. So if he targets something and then passes priority and I pass back, like it resolves. So if he wants to do something in response to the living end, he has to do it in this window with the target. So he's targeted living end, and before that ability resolves, this is what we're talking about. He's going to target the living end, and then he's going to. And then I'm asking him if he wants to do anything before it resolves. Is he maintaining priority? Is what I'm asking him. And he wants to cycle Troll, which I think is
Interesting. So
yeah.
you know what's funny is I would have just let you either do it or not.
So
I would have
I
put you
think in
on
retrospect,
having
yeah, I think in retrospect, um, he just wanted to get I think he really just wanted a third creature there because he's technically losing both of the creatures on board, so he would only have an elk and a curator, not an elk, an ent. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah,
I know you would like OCHO to be unbanned. It's okay.
I do. And then I'm just praying he doesn't have a flare denial.
Fortunately, I think he only had the sink into stupor, so.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. No, you are still looking down at decent beats with no board.
Oh, no. Yeah, he could go all the way with these cards he's got.
I mean, that's what, 5 damage? I believe the Halo Forgers
Yep.
are 3-1.
3-1 and a 2-2.
And
we're still in this game, boys.
Moral victory of having the Nihil spell bomb. I guess you're going to look for the land here.
Yeah. Never punished.
And you hit the land.
Get there.
Wow. What a string of, I mean...
The boys are back in town.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely dead, by the way. His hand just keeps getting better. Those endurances are going to shut down.
He drew 2 endurances back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness. I mean, it's bad enough that you're on a... what? I mean, at that point, that is a 4-turn clock that's about to go down or up if he plays the endurance to 3, 6, 7, 8. So
that's if he plays endurance.
Yeah, which I would have hoped he did, but okay. Interesting. I guess. What is he looking? Oh no, actually, I don't even understand. Oh,
so he could have. Yeah,
no,
he could have.
I don't get it. Cling. What,
so
cling your cling.
He could have. He could have clinged the frog, and then if he does a thing.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
He could have drawn a card or just gained a life just to get the frog out of the graveyard.
I hate all of you graveyard decks equally.
Yeah. Hey man, I'm not doing anything broken. I'm just over here, keeping the tempo.
What's the second card next to the consign there? Hard to tell.
In the graveyard?
No, in your hand.
Oh, I believe it is Orcish Bowmaster, Force, and Psychic Frog.
Okay, no, I couldn't tell that if it was a Bowmaster or not. Super helpful to kill these forgers.
Yeah, being X1s are a liability. Granted, the turn before I had to fetch Shock to get a blue source into play, so I turned his 4-turn clock into a 3-turn clock.
Ooh, yeah, that is dicey there. I assume Ian's going to snap off this sink, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's got Sing and a Stupor, 2 Endurances, and a Straight Wraith. He just says okay.
I'm actually surprised he let that go through and didn't just try to go for blood. I mean, well, hold on, let me see. It has flying, so you're going to get 3 damage through. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did as best as I could. Took out 2 of his dudes. He just pays 5 mana.
Oh, yeah.
Plays invisible. Plays giant invisible stalker, and I'm just like, okay. I'm at 7. 7 after the attack.
Yeah. Sometimes the easiest line or the best line is the simplest.
Yeah, get your opponent dead. My life total should be at 7 right now. Because of the attack. There it is. His draw for this turn, I think, was another Halo Forger. He's playing mono Halo Forger right now.
It turns out using your opponent's spells is pretty good against them.
Yerp. The unfortunate part is I feel like I'm just trading 1-for-1s and not really winning this game.
Yeah, it does seem like you're constantly trying to play catch up. Even if I think your deck was at full strength, I do feel like, unfortunately, the value that this Living End deck presents, it feels not great, especially with no way. I mean, luckily you had the Nihil, but say you had a full grip, right? You're trading all these counter spells, and Ian's ability to use the graveyard to recur a lot of these threats to come back. You have to then find one of these cards that actually removes stuff from the graveyard and to sort of make sure that there is no recursion. It seems like a lot to deal with.
Yeah,
you're still playing your regular game. Plus now you are heavily relying on your cyber cards to end the interaction, which seems like it could be a brutal endeavor.
Yeah, and then he just basically It's definitely rough, I would say, especially when you dispute my frog like a jerk. He hits me with the classic. I'm going to use my knight to fork your one piece and your queen. Put me to 4. It has 3 attackers for the next turn. There's not much I could do. Previously, he cast a Halo Forger targeting the Cling to Dust, and I just removed 3 cards to jump the frog to make it a blocker. But, I mean, I drew 1 card that can possibly get me out of this, or like save me for a turn, which was me drawing another Orcish Bowmaster to snipe one of these Forgers.
I'm
But
actually
things are still not
surprised the
looking good.
previous turn when you had 2 cards in hand that he didn't swing with the 1 Halo Forger, basically saying you either ditch your hand or lose your frog, or just
Yeah.
take, go down to 1, which seems brutal. But unfortunately for you, well, actually not unfortunately, because it seems like you're probably actually going to get value here. Except I hope he evokes, because I think having the mana left open would be better than the sink that he's been holding on to anyway.
I'm going to be honest. I think him just pulling another threat is probably more relevant, which is what he does. And then I'm able to consign replicating just in case he's got a flare.
Though this does leave you with only 1 card, so that does mean that you cannot block with the frog and live with it.
Yerp, which does suck. Maybe if I didn't mull to 5, this would be a fun game.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I'm not trying to be the
part of
salty
Magic.
Murktide player, but I do feel like I got relatively unlucky with those hands. Classic, jump the frog, block, go to 1.
Listen, as someone who can empathize, because I think a lot of the people at home who do watch our content, which we always appreciate every single one of you, even if you're here for a minute or you've been here for an hour, we love you all. I've
Yes.
been on plenty of moments on camera where variance has not been my friend, and while I hate variance, probably more so than most, it does leave an interesting part of the game where you just can't control it. So, does it stink for obviously for our endeavors here and seeing if you can claw your way back in, which is a daunting task? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're all here because of what Magic does for us. It builds us all together. So
Games. I stop before combat. We're gonna have some agency at this end of the game, whether I'm gonna win it or not. I'm gonna make some decisions. Can we get a little bit more? Can we squeeze a little bit more agency out of this? Yeah. Ian's just like, yeah, sure, whatever, dude.
looks like you might pull this one out in a different universe.
Yeah, I think in a different universe. Ian takes it down at 2-0.
And
36 to 1.
Yeah. Oh, to -16. Oh boy.
Oh,
yeah,
you know what? Whoever was running this channel, I'm disappointed in you. But those were our games. We always love having you. We love your support. Don't forget to check out the store. Like, comment, subscribe. I've been Sparky. Say goodbye, Victor.
Goodbye, Victor.